A very good morning and welcome to Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Aishwarya Kapoor. Let us begin by taking a look at the top stories that we are following this hour. Rise above party politics. Take the government schemes to the people. Prime Minister tells NDA MPs at his tea party. No signals yet of a BJP Shiv Sena thaw. New Haryana cabinet to meet for the first time today, a day after Manohar Lal Khattar took oath as the 10th Chief Minister of the state. US and British forces formally mark end of combat operations in Afghanistan, handing control of the Helmand military base to Afghan troops. Left-leaning Dilma Rousseff re-elected president of Brazil, securing more than 51% of votes in a closely fought election. And in sports, Sania Mirza and Kara Black lift the doubles trophy of the WTA finals in Singapore. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has urged MPs of the ruling NDA to rise above politics and remind people that the government was on the side of the economically deprived. At his tea party yesterday, there was a close eye on indications of a BJP Shiv Sena alliance in Maharashtra. Here is a report.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's tea party on Sunday was for the MPs of the NDA. But the focus of attention was on the Shiv Sena and the political situation in Maharashtra.
सभी सांसद है जो एनडीए के सभी उस कार्यक्रम को उपस्थित रहने वाले और प्राइम मिनिस्टर के थ्रू पहली बार ऐसा इनविटेशन आया हुआ तो एक अच्छा अवसर है.
It was the first time since the Modi government took over that all parliamentarians of the ruling NDA were coming together. Modi reportedly asked the MPs to make people aware of the government schemes.
बहुत सारे व्यक्तिगत और भावनात्मक विषयों पर उन्होंने विषय रखा. मुझे लगता है कि एक सीधा संवाद देश के प्रधानमंत्री ने अपने सांसदों से एनडीए के सांसदों के साथ किया. ये अपने आप में एक ऐतिहासिक अनुभव रहा है और मैं समझता हूं कि बहुत ही कामयाब बैठक रही.
Among those present were BJP veterans Lal Krishna Advani and Murli Manohar Joshi. Cabinet ministers Venkaiah Naidu, Arun Jaitley, Sushma Swaraj, Dr. Harshvardhan, Rajyavardhan Singh Rathod and BJP President Amit Shah were present there.
You see, he's doing this. He had a meeting with the press. It was just a Milan, as they say. See, post-Diwali Milan. And an NDA meeting hadn't taken place for some time, so therefore it was held today.
Since the Sena had called off its alliance with the BJP before the Maharashtra Assembly elections, the Prime Minister's invite for high tea was considered as a way to strengthen the alliance.
पुराने रिलेशंस कायम रहेंगे और क्योंकि 25 साल की हमारी अलायंस मानने वाला साहब ठाकरे जी, प्रमोद महाजन जी, मुंडे साहब और आदरणीय अटल जी और अडवाणी जी ने की थी, तो हो सकता है हिंदुत्व के ऊपर ये अलायंस हुई हमारी शिवसेना के साथ में बीजेपी का, तो आगे भी रहेगा. आज पता नहीं अभी आज क्या डिसीजन होता है. हम लोग तो मिलेंगे आज चाय के लिए. हमारी पार्टी ने आदेश दिया, माननीय उद्धव जी ने आदेश दिया कि अब जाके आइए.
Meanwhile, in Maharashtra, while some leaders have suggested that the Uddhav Thackeray was keen on his party forming a coalition government with the BJP, there are still doubts if the alliance will be revived.
इस संदर्भ में जो भी निर्णय करना है वो हमारे पक्ष प्रमुख उद्धव साहब ठाकरे करेंगे. चर्चा चल रही है, जो भी होगा सम्मान से होगा और अच्छा ही होगा.
जनता ने जनादेश दिया है, भाजपा की सरकार बनेगी और बहुत बढ़िया चलेगी. और मुझे लगता है 288 विधायक किसी को वापस चुनाव नहीं चाहिए. वो महाराष्ट्र की भाजपा मिनी मोदी सरकार का समर्थन करेगी.
The BJP needs 13 more legislators to reach the magic figure and form the government. While the NCP with 41 legislators has offered unconditional support to the BJP, there are also reports speculating that the BJP may go for a minority government. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And in other news, new Haryana Chief Minister Manohar Lal Khattar will chair his first meeting of his cabinet at 11 a.m. Today, and Khattar and 9 ministers took oath yesterday. He's already indicated a reopening of cases against Robert Vadra. Here is a report.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi witnessing the swearing-in of the BJP's first government in Haryana, along with senior leaders of the party. A 10-member cabinet led by new Chief Minister Manohar Lal Khattar took oath of office.
ये अभूतपूर्व समय है जब हरियाणा में इस तरह की जबरदस्त जीत नरेंद्र मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में मिली है. भारतीय जनता पार्टी एक संवेदनशील और जवाबदेही ट्रांसपेरेंट गवर्नमेंट बनाने जा रही है।
हरियाणा की जनता में एक नया उत्साह है, कांग्रेस मुक्त हरियाणा हुआ है, विकास युक्त हरियाणा होने जा रहा है।
The 10th Chief Minister Manohar Lal Khattar ji has taken oath, and surely the people of Haryana are ensured today that development and non-corrupt way of moving ahead would be ensured by the BJP government in Haryana.
Also present on the occasion were chief ministers of 4 BJP-ruled states. 60-year-old Khattar is a first-time MLA who has a 4-decade-long association with the RSS. He is also the first Punjabi and the 5th non-Jar chief minister of the state.
हमारी प्राथमिकता रहेगी जो मैनिफेस्टो हमने जनता के सामने पेश किया था उसको हम जल्दी से जल्दी पूरा करें और मैं जनता को विश्वास दिलाता हूं जिस इच्छा और उम्मीद से लोगों ने भारतीय जनता पार्टी की सरकार को बनाया उन इच्छा और उम्मीदों के अनुसार इस प्रदेश का विकास होगा।
In a departure from the past, the ceremony was held at Panchkula instead of Chandigarh as has been the practice so far.
निश्चित तौर से वो बधाई के पात्र हैं, उनको पूरा देश और पूरे हरियाणा के लोग बधाई दे रहे हैं। इसलिए बधाई दे रहे हैं कि उन्होंने कभी भी परिश्रम किया, उन्होंने बिना फल के परिश्रम किया।
The opposition INLD was represented by Abhay Chautala, while Punjab Chief Minister Prakash Singh Badal, whose party SAD opposed the BJP and backed INLD during the assembly elections, also attended the ceremony.
जो विश्वास हरियाणा प्रदेश की जनता ने भारतीय जनता पार्टी के लोगों पर जताया है, हम उन्हें शुभकामनाएं देते हैं, बधाई देते हैं और सकारात्मक तौर से, नकारात्मक तौर से नहीं, सकारात्मक पॉजिटिवनेस से हम हरियाणा प्रदेश की सरकार की तरफ आगे बढ़कर के देखते हैं।
The 6 cabinet ministers are Kavita Jain, State BJP President Rambilas Sharma, Abhimanyu, Om Prakash Dhankar, Anil Vij and Narbir Singh. Vikram Singh Thekedar, Krishna Kumar Bedi and Karan Dev Kamboj took oath as ministers of state. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And the BJP legislature party in Maharashtra will meet at 11 a.m. on Tuesday to elect its leader. The meeting will pave the way for the new leader to meet Governor Vidyasagar Rao and stake claim to form the government. Now, Devendra Fadnavis is known to be the front-runner for the post. Union Home Minister Rajnath Singh and BJP in charge of Maharashtra JP Nadda will be attending Tuesday's meeting as observers. The BJP has 122 seats in the 288 Maharashtra Assembly. The NCP with 41 seats has already offered unconditional support. All eyes are also on a possible renewal of ties with the Shiv Sena, which has won 63 seats. Meanwhile, buoyed by its success in the recent assembly polls in Maharashtra and Haryana, the BJP has decided to fight in all the 81 assembly seats in the upcoming Jharkhand polls. The 5-phase elections in Jharkhand begin on 25th of November. This is the third assembly election after the state was carved out of Bihar in the year 2000. The BJP fought the 2009 assembly polls in alliance with the Janata Dal United and it won 18 seats. Now, this was far less than the 33 seats that it had won in the year 2000, which slipped to 30 in 2005. All right, let's get a perspective on this story. Parsa Venkateshwar Rao Jr. is now joining us in the studio for a perspective on the story. Thank you so much, Mr. Rao, for joining us. If we look at the BJP, it is on a juggernaut. The BJP has won in Haryana and Maharashtra. But how do you look at the prospects of the BJP in other states? Because we have assembly elections coming up in, of course, Jharkhand, and there are also elections in Jammu and Kashmir and probably later in Delhi. How do you look at BJP's prospects?
I think it looks positive because they seem to be enjoying a winning streak right from May onwards, the Lok Sabha elections, and followed by their success in Haryana and in Maharashtra. But each state has got a problem of its own. Haryana was a very surprise performance by the BJP because it was marginal until recently, and it has made a clean sweep there. Though it has improved dramatically in Maharashtra, we see that there is a certain complication there because it doesn't have the simple majority and it requires a bit of a careful handling as to the formation of the government. Jharkhand has been a troubled state ever since formation politically because there has not been a stable government in the real sense of the term. So it is possible that what you call the success begets success. Jharkhand also might go the BJP way because of many factors, because of the instability of so far, dogged by instability, and people would want a stable government.
Yes.
And I think the image of Prime Minister Narendra Modi will carry a certain weight.
But at the same time, Mr. It is very interesting that you said that the image of Narendra Modi will obviously work in favor of the BJP. But the point is, how long can the BJP really harp on Mr. Modi's image? Because right now we saw there was no announcement of chief ministerial candidate before the results came in. If the BJP decides to do the same in Jharkhand as well, how far do you think really the BJP can just move ahead with just the Modi magic?
I have my personal view is that in all these places, especially in Maharashtra and Haryana, yes, there was the image of the Prime Minister is one of the factors. It alone could not have carried the day.
Exactly.
In Maharashtra, it was 15 years of the Congress NCP rule, and people wanted a change.
Yes.
So that gave the momentum to the BJP led by Mr. Modi. In Haryana, it was 10 years of the Congress government, and people wanted a change.
Yes.
In natural terms, the local INLD should have been the choice, but because of the corruption cases and their leaders in prison, BJP had a good chance, and it placed itself. It was in the right position at the right time, sort of thing.
Yes.
In Jharkhand, I think it can carry the day. Yes, the image of the Prime Minister as energetic, as wanting to do something, will carry quite a long way. And I think it will, because the government has come in Delhi, has come into existence only 4 months ago, the goodwill and the image will run for another year.
Okay.
It's only at the end of the first or the second year when things, if things do not happen or if things happen, that will play a role. But just remember that in all the assembly elections, it is the local issues, the local factors that count for more than anything else.
Exactly. But what we saw in Haryana and Maharashtra was probably a lesser sort of opposition. Probably you also talked about the anti-incumbency factor there. But let's talk about Jharkhand, because there are indications now that the rest of the parties, apart from BJP, may form a coalition together. They might all gang up against the BJP. In that case, if that really happens, how is the BJP really going to face them?
I think it has to be the people's choice, and the people's choice, it looks like in this election, in this year, that it is breaking to an extent, not completely, the caste arithmetic.
Yes.
The calculation of all the political parties, including the BJP so far, has been to work around the class and the caste factors. The caste factor, yes, is very important in Indian politics, but there comes a time when people fed up with instability and with other factors do go for a radical change. It might be momentary. It doesn't mean that caste has been annulled completely for all time to come. But I think in this election, this year, most of the elections will break out of the caste mold, and that gives an advantage to the BJP.
Right. Of course, there's a huge advantage to the BJP. But there's also an important point about the grassroots people, the leaders at the grassroots level. And there have been, in fact, accusations against the BJP that they are just harping on the image of Prime Minister Modi. But they really don't have those people, the leaders at the grassroots level. Would you agree?
Yeah, it is very true that it does create a problem when you are carrying an election in the name of the national leader, who is not going to be your chief minister or the man at the ground level.
Yes.
But, at one level it works, but it does create problem as you go along. Every party needs a local leader who is strong enough to carry the thing. It should never be the case that you are riding on the back of someone else's image, because it doesn't work in the long run. And we have seen that in many cases, the Congress faced this problem in the earlier decades. Once upon a time, they used to run on the image of Indira Gandhi, and there were no local leaders as such.
Yes.
I think a similar thing is being reenacted in the BJP case also.
Yes.
But I think they will soon learn that you need a local leader.
Absolutely. They'll soon learn that they will, in fact, need a local leader. Thank you so much, Mr. Rao, for joining us here and sharing your perspective on the entire issue. And now, we'll step into a very short break here. Still to come, exit polls after elections in Ukraine suggest pro-Western parties will dominate the country's parliament. That and much more after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back after the break. Well, defence experts have welcomed the centre's nod to defence projects worth a whopping 80,000 crore rupees. Now, the clearance for indigenous production as well as imports given on Saturday comes as a big boost for the armed forces. The projects include big-ticket deals of building 6 indigenous submarines and 2 midget submarines known as the swimmer delivery vehicles and 12 upgraded Dornier surveillance aircraft for the Navy. The Defence Acquisition Deal Council, in fact, headed by Defence Minister Arun Jaitley, also decided to acquire at least 8,000 anti-tank guided missiles, spike missiles and over 300 launchers in a deal worth 32 billion rupees. Now, the subs will be built at a cost of about 50,000 crore rupees. The Ministry of Defence said a committee will now be formed to study both public and private shipyards over the next 6 to 8 weeks as to whether they have the capacity to and manpower to build these submarines.
The decision of the government, the Defence Acquisition Committee, to clear deals worth almost 80,000 crores is a very major decision. It's also a welcome decision in terms of signalling what you might call as the intent of the Modi government. Various items have been identified, particularly the submarine building project, as also the anti-tank missile, which is to be acquired from Israel.
And here are some more news and updates from around the country in Nationwide. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has invited ideas on his upcoming visit to Australia. On social networking site Twitter, Modi asked people to send their suggestions on the website mygov.in. Preparations are in full swing in Australia to welcome Prime Minister Modi, who will attend the G20 summit in Brisbane and address Indian diaspora in Sydney on November 17. With the northeast monsoon active over South India, incessant rains have thrown normal life out of gear in Andhra Pradesh, flooding agricultural crops and disrupting road traffic at several places. There are also reports of waterlogging and submergence of low-lying areas in Krishna, Guntur, Kadapa and Prakasam districts of the state. Several rivulets and other water bodies are in spate. The Met Office has forecast more rains in Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu and Kerala today. 8 Lashkar-e-Toiba militants have been arrested by security forces in North Kashmir. The militants were in touch with LET leader Umar Khitab. A large quantity of arms and ammunition has been recovered from them. The arrests come weeks before Kashmir is going to polls starting 25th of November. Reports say a major terror plan has been averted with these arrests. A cyclonic storm hurtling towards the North Gujarat coast is expected to make its landfall on Friday morning with a sustained wind speed of 90 to 100 kilometers per hour. Nilofer is expected to bring heavy rains in coastal districts of Saurashtra and Kutch region of North Gujarat. The IMD has predicted a severe cyclonic storm during the next 24 hours and warned the fishermen against venturing into the sea. And in international news, US and British troops ended their combat operations in Afghanistan on Sunday, handing over 2 huge adjacent bases to the Afghan military. The handover ends an important chapter in the 13-year Afghan campaign, which started after the terrorist attacks on the United States in the year 2001. All NATO combat troops will leave Afghanistan by December, leaving most of the fight against resilient Taliban insurgency to Afghan army and the police. At the handover ceremony at Camp Bastion on Sunday, British and US troops stood side by side as the two nations' flags were lowered at the base for the last time. Their departure leaves Afghanistan and its newly installed president Ashraf Ghani to deal almost unaided with an emboldened Taliban insurgency after the last foreign combat troops withdraw by the year end.
There is a better chance of a more stable future in Afghanistan because we have a government there of national unity and an army that's already proved itself over the last couple of years that it is prepared to tackle the Taliban.
الآن استقبال میکنین خب ما به خاطر اینکه ظرفیت خود بازمون گرفته باشین از تقریبا نزدیک به 2 سال بیشتر کل عملیات‌های زمینی خود ما.
And at least 4 countries in different time zones around the world went to elections on Sunday. Here is a look at how they fared. Brazil on Sunday re-elected left-leaning Dilma Rousseff to a second term as president. Rousseff secured more than 51% of votes in a closely contested runoff against centrist candidate Aécio Neves. Now, Neves just got a little over 48% of the votes. Rousseff's re-election for a second term extends the rule of a workers' party, which has in power for 12 years. Now, Rousseff is in power since 2010. He's a popular leader because of her government's welfare policies. Exit polls of Sunday's election in Ukraine suggest that the country is likely to pick a pro-Western parliament. The polls have put President Poroshenko's political bloc in the lead with 23% of the votes. Prime Minister Arseniy Yatsenyuk's People's Front is on a close second with the 21.3% votes. A like-minded self-help party is expected to secure 13.2%, which should be enough to give Poroshenko a strong mandate to pursue his plan to end a separatist conflict in the eastern part of the country and carry out democratic reforms. Uruguayans also voted on Sunday in a presidential election. Outgoing President Jose Mujica is seeking to hand power back to his predecessor, Tabaré Vázquez. Now, Mujica remains popular but is barred by constitution from running for a second consecutive term. Exit polls say that the candidate of President Jose Mujica's party has won most votes, but Tabaré Vázquez appears to have fallen short of the outright majority needed to avoid a second round. The vote could go to a second round on 30th of November. Tunisians on Sunday voted in parliamentary elections to bring democracy in the country. The moderate Islamist party Ennahda and rival secular alliance Nida Tounes are favoured to win most seats in the vote. Most of the parties have pledged to tackle Tunisia's high unemployment and to reinvigorate its economy almost 4 years after an uprising cast out autocrat Zine El Abidine Ben Ali. And for all the other international news and updates, here is the World Wrap. Iraqi troops made gains against IS militants after driving them out of a key town near Baghdad. Iraq forces and Shia militias seized control of the strategic town of Zurf al-Sakhar, while the Kurdish fighters made gains in the north after heavy coalition airstrikes against the Sunni militants. The International Financial Action Task Force, or FATF, has asked all countries, including India, to prevent the Islamic State terror group in Iraq and Syria from tapping their financial systems. FATF has expressed concerns on reports of an estimated $1 million a day funding received by the terror group. SEBI and RBI are likely to issue the warning soon. At least 17 people have been killed and dozens abducted by suspected Boko Haram militants in a series of attacks in Nigeria's northeastern Borno state. The attacks continue despite the announcement of a ceasefire by the Nigerian government and the ongoing negotiations with the group in Chad. Heavy fighting flared between Libya's army and Islamist militias as the militants tried to retake one of the largest camps in the eastern city of Benghazi. At least 130 people have been killed in the past 10 days during street fighting in Benghazi. Egyptian government has increased the security forces in the northern Sinai to enforce the 3-month curfew in the region. The curfew was imposed after 30 soldiers were killed in a suicide bomb attack by the militants last week. Let us now look at some of the major events and meetings that are scheduled for today in our special section, The Day Ahead. National Security Advisor Ajit Doval will visit the Burdwan blast site today to assess the progress of the probe into the attack. Doval is likely to meet West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee and senior state officials at the state secretariat in the afternoon. 3 persons have been arrested in the case so far. Vietnam's Prime Minister Nguyen Thanh Dung will begin his 2-day visit to India today. India and Vietnam are expected to sign agreements in oil exploration, economic and cultural cooperation. Thanh Dung will visit Bodh Gaya first and meet Bihar Chief Minister before leaving for Delhi in the evening. CPM's Central Committee meet continues today for the second day. On a Sunday, Sitaram Yechuri submitted a report on the reason for the decline of the party, holding General Secretary Prakash Karat responsible for the slide. The four-day meeting is an attempt to revise the party's political tactical line. Sri Lankan Navy Chief Vice Admiral Jayanta Pereira will start his 5-day visit to India after invitation from counterpart Admiral R.K. Dhawan. India is eyeing building defence ties with Sri Lanka to counter China's inroads in Indian Ocean. Leaders in Tamil Nadu have opposed the visit. And now a quick look at the Monday morning opening in the stock markets in Japan and Hong Kong with signs of a recovery in the region. Well, Japan's Nikkei is up by 0.40% or 61.19 points to 15,352 at the start of the today's trading. Hong Kong's Hang Seng rose 0.30% or 70.32 points to 23,030 at the start of trading. And let's now take a look at all the updates from the sports arena in our Sports Beat. Sania Mirza and Cara Black have won the prestigious doubles title at the WTA Finals. The duo reeled off 12 straight games to stun defending champions Siu Wei and Peng Shuai by the record score of 6-1, 6-0. The Indo-Zimbabwean pair, playing their last match together, lost the first game against the favourites but then put together a phenomenal streak to lift the Martina Navratilova trophy in Singapore. It was the third doubles crown for Cara, while Mirza won her first victory at the season-ending championships. Pune City recorded their maiden victory in the league by beating Goa 2-0 in the Indian Super League on Sunday. Kostas Katsouриnas of Greece scored the first goal for the FC Pune City, while former French striker David Trezeguet added the second to give Pune their first win in the ISL. Pune moved into the 5th place, while Goa remained at the bottom of the table with 1 point. Atletico de Kolkata, without a star forward, Fikru Terfera put up a spirited show but could not score that elusive winner, settling for a 1-1 draw against lucky Kerala Blasters FC in their 5th ISL encounter at the Salt Lake Stadium on Sunday. Atletico maintained their top position in the league table with 11 points from 5 games, while Blasters earned their first point in their third game. And finally, here is a ballet performance with a difference. The ballerinas of Sao Paulo Association of Ballet and Arts in Brazil are blind. They refuse to let any handicap get in their way. Here is saluting their spirit. Have a great day. Take care.